At Steamboat Gravel, Keegan Swinson ran a 63 millimeter tall rim. Super tall for gravel. At Gravel Worlds, recently in Nebraska, Chase Wark said, "Hey, Keegan, hold my beer." Chase ran a 180 millimeter deep rear head, the Head 180, designed initially for triathlon, laced to a wide gravel rim. I, like many who saw this on Instagram, was super curious about the reasoning behind this and how the thing handled. So I asked Chase to chat, and this video is that conversation. And so Chase Wark second at Gravel Worlds. Congratulations, sir. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. We had a 6.5 hour drive home yesterday and took a little nap in the back seat for a bit. But yeah, uh, I don't know. It for any Midwest person, like a 6.5 hour drive isn't too bad. So yeah,
and still, like, I mean, how many hours were you on the bike for the 150-mile Gravel Worlds?
8 hours,
Yeah.
which is
So there you go. Yeah.
yeah.
So I had my attention thoroughly grabbed, like a lot of folks, seeing the bike that you rode, or more specifically, the rear wheel situation that you rode at Gravel Worlds with the Jet 180. I've seen this before in triathlon, but never before on gravel. So that's what I want you to tell me about is, why you picked this wheel and how you tested it out before. If it was indeed a stock wheel, because I saw something about it being an Emporia rim. So lots of
Mhm.
questions, but just start with the why first. How did this pop into your head? Is like, this is going to be the wheel for Gravel Worlds?
The why was actually so leading back to Wednesday and Thursday. I knew I raced uh, para nationals on a tandem. So we
Okay.
won 2 national titles, and kind of leading into Gravel Worlds, I told my coach, like, I don't have any expectations. Like, I didn't know how I would feel. So I reached out to Head because I wanted to get some social media attention for the team. So, uh, and they've said before that they would make me a Jet 180. And so I reached out 2 weeks before, and they hooked me up. They got it to one of my friends had to grab it actually Monday and bring it down to Gravel Worlds. So so there was actually no testing of it, but I have ridden. If you look way back in my Instagram, 2021, I rode an Aero road bike, full disc wheel, 60 millimeter deep front wheel on one of our local races called Day Across Minnesota. So I've experienced like disc or deep wheels, weird gravel rigs before. So yeah, just I knew the 180 would grab some attention to hopefully the team, for myself. And then yeah, so really just like selfishly it was to get attention. But and then I knew that it could help out with like, I also had TT bars, so just a whole TT bike setup. Yeah, no testing, so I didn't know if it would help aerodynamically save some watts or not. Set it up Friday. Andy from Head spent 2 hours with me. I changed tires 3 different times. Changed the cassette I was running from a Rogue cassette to a Eagle cassette, and then rode it for 5 miles because my legs were so dead on Friday. I really just wrote it to get pictures and then wrote it back to the expo, and then crossed my fingers and then, I was going to run a 60 millimeter or a Vanquish 6, which is 60 millimeters deep in the front. But then with the wind, it wasn't handling as well as I wanted it to because I haven't had much TT position practice. So changed it to just a regular Emporia front wheel laced with bird spokes.
That brings us to the big question. It's not whether, aero is faster. It almost certainly is, but
Mhm.
it's not the only, it doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? And
Yeah.
whether that's like riding deep wheels on pavement on a really windy day can be a little unnerving, but on gravel you just have, almost always you've got less traction to
Yeah.
start with, right? And then if the wheel is getting blown around, um, I think that's what makes that such a unique configuration. So how did it feel? I mean, how did it feel to have a
It
180 millimeter rear, like almost a full disc rear wheel on dirt for 150 miles?
It felt amazing, actually. Like I couldn't. I guess at the beginning, I could tell that there was extra weight in the back since it rained during the night and actually rained at the start. The gravel was a little uh, muddy. I would not muddy, but just looser. You would sink in a little bit. So I could tell
Yeah.
the rear wheel was sinking just a little extra, and we were going so slow. I don't really think there was any aero benefit. But once it dried up, like that thing was ripping fast, and I never had any issues getting blown around. So I was really happy about that because then I could hold my TT position longer, be more comfortable.
And then you ended up in a two-man move with eventual winner and now three-time winner John Borstelman. How did the two of you ended up off the front?
So kind of like on bound, there was a mud section. Not many people complained about it, unlike on bound. But yeah, we hit that. There was a group of 6 of us. One dude from the Netherlands was on a road bike that clogged up right away. Uh, Brennan Wirtz's bike clogged up pretty early in, and then there was 4 of us with like 100 meters left before we got to like smooth pavement. Got super muddy. All of our bikes clogged up. And then John, I think, has had the most experience with mud. So he like ran, he had a paint stick, got it pretty cleared out, but then he just started riding. And then he like looked back, yelled at us. He's like, just hop on your bike and ride. I'm like, that's dumb. I need to like clear more stuff out. But then like Steven Vogel, who's just like a TT monster, he started going. I'm like, okay, well, I just got to get going and like hope I can catch them because that's the race right there. So I hop on and yeah, John was right. I started riding everything, all the mud shed off, and um, yeah, I was like, that's the move. I need to just use all my matches right now. Caught up to Steven and John, and then Steven ran out of food, so he kind of fell off of us. I gave him 3 of my
Wah,
gels, but
wah.
then he like, yeah, he disappeared right after that, and I'm like, shoot, I wasted my gels. But yeah, then it was just me and John trading poles the whole time, and we've been racing with each other for 7, 8 years now. So it was just a lot of chatting, honestly, between us. And yeah, it was super fun. Probably one of my actually, the most fun I've had in a gravel race for sure. So
That's
yeah,
great. That's great. Yeah, John's a good dude.
yeah.
What I saw you on, you're on the Mazda-Lauf team, so of course you're on you're on a Lauf bike. Was it the Siegler or which
Yeah, I
bike?
rode
Which
this
frame was it?
Siglo, which can fit 2.2-inch tires.
So
So
right, right.
mud clearance wasn't an issue at Gravel Worlds, or actually in Onbound. I even made the front group till I flatted out, literally just because of the tire clearance. I think it has so much, and
Yes.
yeah, it's super
Yeah, it's
helpful to have that.
it's massive. I've got um I don't know if you've seen these 750D
Oh yeah,
extra large wheels and
yeah.
tires that WTB is playing around with, and I've got a Lauf Siegler frame here as a tester for the Apex group. You and I were talking
Okay,
before we started recording about being in Galena in your
yeah.
Driftless region. So, yeah, bike from there has that. Like as you said, it's got so much clearance. I'm able to put on these 750D wheels on that frame. So I'm gonna
Oh dang.
test those out. So I don't know if that's gonna get as much positive attention as you riding a 180 mil uh, disc rim, but
I
yeah, that's
think
what I'm
they
going
just
to use
need
that frame for.
put them on a fast person so they get a good result, and I think people will say really good things. Where like I bet if I rode the 180 and got like 20th, they'd be like, man, if you would have rode your regular rear wheel, like maybe you would have done better. But yeah, I think this is random transition, but like I actually do think it helped a lot with aerodynamics. If you look at like John's power compared to mine, his normalized power was 50 watts more than mine, and his average power was another like 30 or 40 watts higher. So
Well, and he's a bigger guy too, right? He's like a
Yeah.
taller individual. So yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm
I
sure like
think
if you
people
just
can,
use like a modeling software, like a best bike split or something like this, and you can
yeah.
put in wheel depth, yeah, a faster wheel is going to be faster. It's just like, at least to my knowledge, a modeling software like best bike split doesn't take traction into account, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So, so how about this? Will you run this rear wheel again at a gravel race?
Yeah. I plan on running it at anything with climbs less than like 60 seconds. So, like in onbound, I would probably run it. And then I won't run it at Big Sugar just because the climbs are a little bit longer. Where, like, with the 180, you can kind of use that momentum to build some speed before you hit the climb and go in a little faster. But yeah, anything over 60 seconds with a lot of like 2, 3, 4 minute climbs, I don't think it would necessarily be worth it, but a lot of the Midwest racing that I do, or like Mid South, I think it would be really good for a course like that.
Hmm. So,
So
so in your mind, it's the weight is the go no go factor, not a compromise in handling.
yeah, it didn't compromise handling at all. So, or at least from what
And
I
then,
could tell, yeah.
hmm, that's great. What you said you changed tires 3 different times before you ended up picking one. What did you end up going with?
I went with the Renee Hurst Nacolmi Pass endurance casing. So 44 millimeter. If I would have had 38 millimeter tires, their Barlow Pass, I would have ran those, but I didn't throw any in my bag for my friend to bring down. So
Was this a stock? Can you buy this 180 from Head with the Emporia rim, or was this just a one-off? Because normally it has the 21 mil rim, which Head was certainly out super early for offering wide internal rims, like well before it became a trend in gravel. They were doing that on the road, but just look at their website. It seems like the 21 mil rim is what comes on this 180 as of now.
yeah, you wouldn't be able to order it. You would have to send them an email and then put in an order that way. But yeah, they are open to ordering, I believe it. So
Okay. Now, tell me
yeah.
about the spokes. Another thing that Head did was, get the benefit of the aerodynamics of having a fairing, but with the compliant handling of a long spoke. So instead of having like a really deep carbon section, which is stiffer, they'd have
Mhm.
spokes run through the fairing to the box rim. How do you know what the internal configuration is as far as how long the spokes are on the 180?
I don't, it would be however long they are just on a stock Emporia wheel. So I don't know that off the top of my head, but yeah, yeah,
But basically, like
just
a full
because of,
length, basically a full length spoke, and then that's sandwiched
yeah,
inside of the. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So it's really stiff too. Like it, I think with shorter spokes, if it would just be from to the fairing, there would be a lot of flex. But yeah, so
Well, I actually think it's just like for riding characteristics, it'd be a more compliant wheel having like really long spokes instead of the carbon's going to be a stiffer structure
oh yeah,
than a metal spoke. So it just as far as like ride feels, I think it's better to have a long metal spoke than a long carbon structure.
yeah, yeah. It was comfortable to ride.
So where will we see you on this Jet 180 later this year? And what races are on your calendar, and where will we see
Um,
this wheel combo again?
BWR Kansas is on the calendar potentially. Uh, I may stay in Minnesota and do our biggest gravel race called the Filthy 50 instead. I'm still debating between those two. And then uh, I won't run it at Big Sugar, but I'll be there. So I don't know if I'll run it at any of the remaining bigger races, just because I only have two left on my calendar. So,
Hmm.
but then next year I'll run it at Mid South as long as Head is still a partner with me.
Sure.
So, um, but yeah, maybe I run it at Big Sugar. I'll bring it out and do some course testing and see what that's like. But Yeah, I think just the extra weight kind of negates any gains made on like the downhill because that's where all the selections would be made at Big Sugar. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Cool. Well, Chase Wark, second at Gravel Worlds, recent two-time para-national champion and innovator of going deep on the gravel wheels. Thanks for your time. Great to chat with you, and I look forward to seeing you down the road at the events.
thank you, Ben. See you somewhere. Yeah.